What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show, and today it's officially time to get our beginner bike on with the Royal Enfield Scram 411. This little guy actually came to me direct from the folks at Royal Enfield. They saw the Himalayan review and they were like, why don't you check out the Scram for a little bit, and maybe we'll see about getting you some other bikes and stuff too. So today we're doing the full day in the saddle shakedown on the Scram here, and we're going to start out with my raw first impressions because there's actually kind of a lot to talk about here. Let's hit the road. Okay, folks, so as you may notice, we are actually currently not at AF1. AF1 is usually where I get all of my loaner motorcycles, all the bikes that I review. They usually come from AF1, but as I said in the intro, this one actually came from Royal Enfield. They sent this bike out to me. I've actually had it since tail end of last week, but this is actually the first day that the sun has been out in Austin, and I like filming these reviews because I'm out all day on days when it's nice. So I've actually been sitting on this guy, and it's kind of been bumming me out because I've been wanting to check it out. So as we usually do, or do now, with these day in the saddle first impression deals, I want to talk about what I think I know about this motorcycle. So, obviously, this is a stripped back Himalayan. That's why it says Himalayan right there. Now, I think it's 411 cc's. I have no idea why I might think that. I know it's air and oil cooled. I know it's a single cylinder. I think it's making like 25, 28 horsepower and about the same amount of torque, and I think this is lighter than the Himalayan. I don't remember by how much, but I know that it doesn't have the big like fixed fairing deal up here, which is actually pretty heavy. So hopefully this thing feels nice and light as we get on it. So let's mount up. So first thing that struck me is we got a different dash up here, and I actually quite like the look of this layout. The Himalayan had a lot of stuff on it. The only thing that I'm noticing that's not here is a tachometer, and I do wish it had that. But we've got gear position, speed, the little like Google Tripper thingy, I think. I still don't know how these work. I need to figure out how that works. And then a very, very simple setup in the cockpit. So let's turn it on. Yep, just a nice little agricultural little thumper. One thing I will note is I remember when I did the Himalayan, it was very, very cold-blooded. It was hard to get that thing to start. It like died, I don't know, 4 times on me while I was getting ready to leave the dealership, and it took a long time for that thing to get hot. This thing doesn't have that issue, so they seem to have solved it for the Scrams here, or at least the new model year Himalayans. So let's get out and actually hit the road, shall we? So dipping it down into the first corner, the first thing I'm realizing is that brake, that thing's still really rough. It's not, oh man, it is not that it's not stopping the motorcycle. It's just that this little master cylinder with the, I mean, I don't understand why they put something so bad on this bike. This master cylinder, I remember this on the Himalayan, and even the what did I ride? The Interceptor 650, and I rode the Continental GT too. All of the Royal Enfields that I've ridden have had just absolutely appallingly spongy front brakes. Again, it's not dangerous, but come on, Royal Enfield. Put like the Magura Master Cylinder is like $70, I think. The one that we put on the Interceptor back in the day. It's $70. Do us a favor and just like increase the base price of the motorcycle by $70. Come on. Can we pass the Toyota Corolla? Yes, we can. It is worth pointing out that this motorcycle is not exactly the fastest thing in the world. I am noticing immediately the same kind of deal with the Himalayan, where if you're not kind of at the top of the power band, you do have to hold it at wide open throttle. But you know, it's making more than enough power to just get up and go and merge with traffic, and we are actually about to get on 35 here, so you'll see that in action firsthand. But suffice it to say, we're not going to be doing you know, the usual big pull that I normally do when I get on 35 going south. I usually do a nice little big pull to see what the power's looking like. This thing is very much the KLR, where you gotta wrap it out. But you know, we're picking up speed, we're keeping up with traffic here, so this is pretty good. Let's see, do we have a 6th gear? No, we do not. Okay, 5 gears in the box. Good to know. Can we pass the Titan? We're in 5th gear, so we're literally just, I'm holding wide open throttle, and we're just gonna see. Yeah, okay, it's like the KLR. You gotta think about your passes. This is definitely a motorcycle where you gotta work the gearbox to get going. And already I'm missing a tachometer. I really, because when it comes to a bike like this, I find that you really learn the rev ranges, and you know you can see it out of your peripheral, right? So let's say, for example, it did the Harley thing, where instead of trip A and trip B and Odo, you had RPM, just a digital RPM readout. You can still see it. Like, I'm not moving my head, I'm just looking down, and I can see it really clearly. That would be a great spot for a digital tach. And again, it doesn't need to be fancy, it just needs to tell you the RPM that you're sitting at, because when you're on a motorcycle like this, you can feel the vibration, and you know, okay, I'm higher in the power band. But you know, it'd be nice to know how close you are getting to red line and stuff like that. That's a convenience feature on a bike that admittedly isn't making a ton of power, so I would like to see that come back in a future iteration. Okay, so getting past 70, it's a little bit slow, I'm not gonna lie. I had the same issue with the Himalayan, and I also have this issue with the KLR. I can push the KLR a little bit harder than I am. Like, I'm going wide open throttle here, and I'm not watching the needle move. Now it is that it's leveled out a little bit, but I'm waiting a lot for this motorcycle. This is definitely a right lane bike here if you're in a state like Texas. You gotta know what you're getting into. But again, this isn't designed for big highway duty. It can do it, but it's like getting on a scooter. You know, you can get on a scooter in traffic, but if everybody's flowing like 85, you wouldn't get on the highway on a little bike. So let's just assume that it can get you where you need to go, but let's see if it's any fun once you get to a nice twisty road. Okay, so as we head into our little twisty road segment here, there is this nice little hill. It's actually pretty steep. I know the GoPro's doing a great job of flattening it out, because that's what it always does, but this is a couple hundred feet of rise, and I just wanted to see what it's like. So 3rd gear, I'm pinned at 50. What if I go down? I'm really begging it. You know, I think with a bike like this, it's really just about patience. You really do need to know what you're getting into with something like this. But I don't think it's gonna leave you high and dry. I don't think it's too slow. At least that's not my my read on the situation just yet. But let's get into a twisty road and see what it's all about. Okie dokie, let's have a little bit of fun, shall we? You do end up full throttling this a lot, I will say. I am finding myself treating, boy oh boy, that front brake though. I'm finding myself treating that throttle like a light switch. And that can be fun, but it can also potentially teach you a few bad habits. So that being said, I probably am riding a little bit faster through these corners than your average beginner might. So let's look at this in the lens of the beginner riders. So when we get to the next turn off, I'm actually going to slow it up a little bit, and yeah, here we go. It's a good opportunity to slow things down and take it at a nice, just chill pace. Let's not really see what it's all about. Let's just, you know, let's have a good time. So the biggest thing that is really holding this bike back for me, it's not the power, it's actually the front brake. I enjoy the idea of the slow bike fast kind of deal. And honestly, side to side, this thing it's relatively light because the bars are so wide. You have this nice commanding stance over the bike, and you can, you know, really just, you can play. It'll get it. It's let down somewhat by the fact that the front brake is just so mushy feeling. And again, it's not that it's not stopping the bike. I want to make that clear. This thing is not an unsafe brake. It's not gonna, you know, underperform when you need it to. It's just when you're used to a nicer braking feel, as I'm used to on my Ducati and a lot of the other bikes that I ride for that matter, it's not giving me any feedback. It's not telling me what's happening at the wheel. However, this is a super easy part to replace. It does require a little bit of mechanical know-how, so if you're, you know, a straight up beginner, I would just ride it as is. But when you start getting a little bit faster and you start enjoying the ride a little bit more, definitely look at replacing this master cylinder. It takes like an hour tops. All you got to do is just bleed the brakes. You got to drain the lines, and then replace the cylinder, get new crush washers. Most of the kits will come with everything that you need to get the job done. But yeah, honestly, I'm having a nice little time going through these hills like this. And you know, I'm not going crazy super fast, you know. I'm going through it like a pleasant neighborhood pace. Admittedly, that pleasant neighborhood pace is like 50 miles an hour, but you know, I could be going a lot faster on a bigger bike, so I'm feeling pretty good about this. One thing I will say, because the front brake is as numb feeling as it is, I end up using the rear a lot, and this is something I noticed on my KLR. The rear brake actually has a surprisingly good feel to it. I almost wish that they took the rear master cylinder and put it up here, honestly, as silly as that sounds. It feels a lot nicer, and I don't know what it is, and I know for a fact that it's not the lever. If you're thinking, oh, you know, I'm going to change the lever and it's going to make it feel better, no, it's not. The lever is the thing that's pushing the fluid, so it could be old fluid, it could be bad pads, it could just be a numb feeling master cylinder, and the only way you're going to be able to know is by swapping this guy out. But you know what, I'm pretty sure this bike's like under $5,000, so it's okay. It's like, this thing is a completely rideable package as it is. And I'm actually having a really good time. Would it be nice if it was making a little bit more power? Sure. You know, I'd like it to be making a little bit closer to that, to like 40 horsepower. Like if it was making DRZ power, I think that would be perfect. DRZ is like 40 and 28, I think, something like that, right around there. If this was making that, I think it would be perfect. But you know, I'm also fine with it not being the fastest thing in the world. Sometimes just having a nice bike to get the job done is all you need. And again, I'm having a fun time going through these hills. Definitely more fun than I would if I was on like a leader bike. I will say that. Like if I was on a bike that's making like 150 horsepower going through here, I wouldn't really be enjoying myself, because you can't use the bike, you know. But this, you can get all 100% out of it. I guess the question then becomes, you know, is it something that you'd outgrow? Would you outgrow it too quickly? Would it leave you wanting more? I'm not sure. You know, the suspension actually feels pretty good. You know, it's not like, it's not fully adjustable KYBs or anything, but it's not like springing me all around the road and stuff. It's holding the line pretty well. I do think I'm pushing the limits, though, at my weight at 240. Well, guys, let's pull this thing over and start wrapping up our thoughts on this guy. Here we is at the pull-off spot. You know, I know looks are subjective, and I don't usually talk about looks at this point, but I think it looks pretty cool, honestly. It's got this, like, old Land Cruiser aesthetic to it. I'll have to put up a image of what I'm talking about. I think it's the Land Cruiser. Maybe it's the old Toyota, the, like, tan one that's all boxy and it's got, like, sharp edges and stuff. This sort of has that kind of just deserty, explorer-y vibe to it. It looks very unique. There aren't a lot of bikes that look like this does, and you know, I think it's actually a sharp, handsome little bike. But that is going to round out my thoughts on this thing. I think it's a solid enough little bike. It doesn't make a huge, splashy first impression, but that's why I'm going to be spending the rest of today riding this thing around. I am going to try it off-road because it is a Scrambler, and we're going to go see how it shakes down. So if you want to see the full review on this, where I go into all of the details, I talk about seat height and all of that stuff, that video is probably going to be coming out in like a week. I honestly don't know when this one's coming out, but you will be seeing a full review on that. It's going to be a lot longer, a lot more detailed. But for today, 2 thumbs up for the little Royal Enfield. I will catch you guys in the next one. See you later.